Hi kids, good afternoon. Welcome to our science class. May we also welcome our guardians or parents who are with us watching today. And then may I request everyone to please get your modules in order for you to answer the different activities as we go along our lesson for today. Okay, so before we start our new lesson for today, let us have first our brief review of our past lesson on reproduction. So when we say reproduction, re means again, and production means making. So if we combine the two words, reproduction means making again. What shall be made again? Organisms are being reproduced to continue producing the same species. Reproduction is needed by animals to continue giving birth or producing their own kind. So there are two types of reproduction. First, we have sexual reproduction, and the second one is asexual reproduction. Okay, this time let us differentiate the two types of reproduction. Asexual reproduction versus sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent, while sexual reproduction involves two parents. When we say one parent per reproduction, it means to say that a single parent is creating a clone, which means the offspring is genetically identical to the parent. While sexual reproduction, the offspring is genetically mixed of both parents, meaning the genes of your parents are being passed on to the child. It's either by the color of the eyes, the color of the skin, the type of the hair, the height, and so on. And asexual reproduction involves regular body cells. When we say body cells, any structure of the body. And the last one is for sexual reproduction, it involves specialized sex cells. When we say sex cells, there are two types since there are two parents involved. One is for male sex cell, which is the sperm cell, and the other one is for the female sex cell, which is the egg cell. In our past lesson, we also discussed the male and female reproductive parts and their functions, and the male and female reproductive parts of other animals. This time, in this lesson, you are expected to identify the different reproductive parts of a plant and their functions. We all know that all living things reproduce. That is, all living things give birth of the same kind. For example, cats produce cats. Birds reproduce birds. Dogs reproduce dogs. Humans reproduce humans, and the like. Plants also reproduce their own kind. Look at this example. But how do plants reproduce? Some plants reproduce using their flowers. Flowers are the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant that helps the plant to multiply or increase their number by reproducing. They go through sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in plants involves male and female parts of a flower. Flowering plants may have complete or incomplete flower. Complete flower has complete parts. That means to say, they have the male and female reproductive part, while incomplete flower has some missing part. Some might not have pistil or stamen. Okay, so before we proceed, may I ask everyone to please get your module, turn it on page 4 of your module 4, lesson 1, and try to answer what's more. Okay, the instruction is already indicated in your module. And then as we go along, you can check your answer if your answers are correct. Are you done answering what's more on your module? I hope so, as we discuss the different parts of the flower. Okay, what are these? You can check your answer, okay? First is we have petals. Next one is sepal. The next one is receptacle, stamen, and pistil. Are your answers correct? Alright, let us continue. You can scan all your modules as we go along our lesson and follow after me as we continue discussing and describing the different parts and functions of the different parts of the flower. First, we have the sepal. Okay. What are sepals? What are their functions? Sepals are found at the base of the flower. Ayan. They look like green and leaf-like. They help protect the developing bud. And they also provide support to the petals when the flower is fully grown. All sepals together are called calyx. Next is petals. Petals are usually bright, colorful part of a flower. They make the flower look attractive. Their function is to attract insects like bees and butterflies, which help in pollinating the flower. All petals together are called corolla. Stamen. Stamen are the male reproductive organs of a flower. It produces the male sex cells called pollen cells. It is made up of two parts, the anther and the filament. This time let us discuss the different parts of the stamen. First we have the anther. The anther produces the pollen grains that comprises the male reproductive cells. What are these pollen grains? Pollen grains are the male gametes. Filament. The filament is usually taller than the pistil. It holds up the anther. Why is it that the filament is usually taller than the pistil? The answer is for an easier pollination. Next is the pistil. The pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. It produces the female sex cells called the ovules. It is made out of three parts, the stigma, the style, and the ovary. Okay, so here are the different parts of the pistil. We have the stigma, the style, and the ovary. Here are the different parts of the pistil. Stigma. The stigma is the sticky surface at the top of the pistil. It traps and holds the pistil. The style. The style is a tube-like stalk that holds the stigma up. It leads the pollen to the ovary. Ovary is at the base of the pistil. It contains the female gametes or egg cells called the ovules. And the last part of the flower is the receptacle. The receptacle is found at the bottom of the flower. It holds and supports the parts or organs of the flower. Okay, and so these are the different parts of the flower Again, let us identify them one by one. We have the pistil. This is the entire pistil, and it is divided into three. We have the stigma, the style, and the ovary. And the ovary contains the ovule. Do not forget, pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. Next is the stamen. Stamen is divided into two parts. We have the anther, which contains the pollen cells or the pollen grains, and the filament. This is the entire filament. All right. The stamen is also the male reproductive part of the flower, and the rest of the parts of the flower is the sepal, the petal. All right, these are the petals, the colorful one, and the receptacle. Okay, the receptacle holds the entire flower. Okay, so this is now the different parts of the flower. Okay, so that comprises all the different parts of the reproductive part of the flower. Now, may I ask everyone to please turn on page 6 of your lesson 1 and try to answer assessment. Now, may I ask also everyone to please get your notebook. I would like you to draw a flower and label the parts.